Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 29th of October. My name is Philip Kingston.
And my name's Gary Peer.
Gary, we're officially in the home straight, to use a racing term.
We are. First is my sister's birthday today. I'd like to pay homage to her.
Oh, homage should be paid. Judy, happy birthday.
But we are in the racing season.
Won't ask her how old she is on
she's
camera.
Very youthful. But you talk about in the home straight, Philip.
Yes.
Well, how about the races?
Well, how about the races?
Yeah,
have you got a quick little summary of the racing? Because a lot of people are now tuning in just for the racing report.
Well, I'm losing sleep at the moment, Philip.
Losing sleep, eh? You're losing?
I'm worried.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got a nightmare, Philip. And you know what the nightmare is? That there's going to be a Japanese real estate agent into Caulfield and obliterate our business. I'm scared about
Japanese real estate agent
I'm worried
coming to Caulfield,
Yeah.
obliterating our business.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Not just in Caulfield, but all the areas we've got offices in, because the Japanese in the racing scene, they've come to the Caulfield Cup, they bought a horse and it's just like Pegasus, it's just flown home. Then they've done it in the Cox Plate. So how good are Japanese horses? That's what I want to know. And if Japanese real estate agents are as good as Japanese horses, we're going to have a big problem in our business, Phil.
Well, I've got to tell you, Gary, a few years ago, REA took us all to Japan to study robotics.
They invited them, that was the guys.
And I've got to tell you, the question is, are these horses real horses or are they artificial intelligence?
Right. But I went to pat one, it was pretty hard.
I don't believe the Japanese are going to come to Caulfield anytime soon. I do want to make an apology to you. I watched last week's GPTV and my wife again, thank you Irene for constantly bringing this to my attention,
she's a defender. Irene is a defender of the downtrodden and the abused. So thanks, Irene.
Again, she says too much talking over you, too much cutting in.
Yeah.
But I've had some feedback saying that whilst it seems a bit obnoxious, I'm cutting in over you talking, but they said, but you talking doesn't really add much to the show.
So you're doing us a favour, doing the viewers a favour.
So I'm going to just try to moderate my natural enthusiasm.
That's your
today.
attempt of humility, Phil, is it? Is that right?
That's about as good as it gets.
Very good. Well done. Some canned laughter for Philip's humility. If we could do some canned applause, that'd be wonderful. Not laughter, but both applause and laughter. Anyway, Phil, the Japanese real estate agents, I'm scared. Can you just put me at peace? Because if their horses are that good, what are they going to do if they open up in Bentley and St Kilda and Carnegie and Caulfield? We've got no chance.
I love the fact, and I could not care less about the racing industry, or racing, or gambling, as the viewers know. But I do love how the Melbourne Cup has become such an international horse race, and that we've got people and trainers and jockeys and horses coming from all over the world.
Is it a good thing?
Oh, it's a great thing.
Because we're just getting plucked.
No,
it's just getting plucked and picked off.
It becomes an international race. It's a great carnival.
I mean, we had Winks for 4 years, who won the Cox Plate, was a champion. This year had a little bit less lacklustre. A third of the crowd were down, and we've got these Japanese horses. They just fly in. They hardly get off the runway in Tullamarine. They fly in. They just keep running. They go straight from Tullamarine Airport to Moonee Valley, win, get back on the plane, and take our $5 million away with us.
Well, Gary, can we move on now from racing?
Okay, fair enough. We can, Phil. What a big weekend. You got the clearance rate there, Phil?
I have, Gary.
What
it was 23 out of 26, and if I'm not mistaken, that gives us an 89% clearance against the industry average, which clocked in at 77%.
Yeah.
So yet again, we've smashed the industry. But what a big weekend, because it was Super Saturday in Melbourne, Gary.
Was, Phil.
With 1,400 auctions held, which is a big weekend. And viewers, if you're wondering why it was such a big weekend, it's the weekend before Melbourne Cup, where Melbourne really runs very few auctions.
It does indeed, Phil, and that was a real test of the market last weekend. Now, I've got a story that came out in the sales media yesterday before you actually popped in, which was both alarming, humorous and shocking, all the same.
Alarming, humorous, shocking.
Yeah, alarming, shocking. We've had a buyer now who has seen whether the home is suitable for their dog, Phil. You haven't heard this in Stone Street. So we sold a property very well on Stone Street, and we can even show the vendors a great endorsement of our testimony if we wanted. But the dog, someone's come in and they said, look, we're thinking of buying this house, but we have to make sure our dog's comfortable. They've taken the dog.
Are you serious? So they've test dogged the house. They've taken the house on a test dog.
It's like dog feng shui, Phil. It's like dog feng shui. There's no longer human feng shui. It's now dog. So we're going all animal this episode.
Dogs rule now. Yeah, go on.
Or do they rule?
Yeah.
So this dog's come through, had a bit of a sniff around, right? Gone to the back. No, it hasn't lifted its leg, Phil. It's actually had a bit of a squat in the back garden of these people's home in Stone Street. So we've now got a story that'll be in our retirement book. This is a beauty. where the dog has actually come in.
You mean they let it off the leash, it's done a runner to the back?
Well, I don't know if it even ran or they just let it there. Right. The dog has smelt through the home, given it basically the paws up, right? Yeah. They don't have thumbs, dogs. Gave it the paws up, and then, just as a validation, it's gone to the back garden. No, it didn't lift up a leg. It had a squat and done its business in the back garden.
Just bear with me, because I'm a little bit slow.
See, truth is stranger than fiction.
So the dog has pooed in the back garden. Did these people buy the house?
They didn't buy the house after that. That's the most bizarre thing. And not only did they not buy the house, but apparently they made some, I'm not sure if it was a snide comment or some sort of dismissive comment on the way out of the auction. It was a very competitive auction.
Oh, so they bid on the house?
I believe they were there to buy a bit on the house.
Okay, so at least these people whose dog pooed in the back garden actually had a crack at buying it.
Well, I'm wondering, there's a lot of permutations and combinations here. I just wonder if the dog had stayed inside a bit longer, if it would have actually bought the house then. But then maybe there would have been a bit of a mess there. I'm not sure.
I've got to tell you,
it's getting filthy and disgusting.
I love the story, just in terms of
how about that, Phil?
Of people actually having to bring the dog through.
Now, Julie in the Bath, a noted dog lover, will be enjoying this episode, and she would relate to it. She's got a 3-legged dog, by the way, Phil. Yes. And for those who love Chris Lilly, he had a song about a 3-legged dog. You can go onto YouTube and play it, which I sang to her when I met her 3-legged dog. But how about that, Phil? A dog goes into a garden, and the owners not only sanction and promote, but actually want that to happen.
What a bizarrely politically correct world we now live in.
We talked about it last week, Phil, and I'm not sure if I got in the fourth thing, that the fourth law that has been passed in Victoria now, and the police are under a bit of investigation. I don't know if you saw that last night or Sunday night on the telly. Police are under investigation for belting people in Victoria, but or the wrong people, or too much, or too long, but you can get arrested now for singing in public. If you sing something inappropriate in public, you can 3 months in jail.
Do you know, I'm so sick of this political correctness, viewers. I now, if you've been to our auctions, you know that I'm partial to handing out chocolates, lovely Lindt chocolates. If the managing director of Lindt Australia is currently watching.
Oh, we've got someone connected.
I know, I reached out to them during the week. He hasn't come back to me yet.
We want some freebies.
But now when I give boxes of chocolates away, and I give them to young children, I have to give the box of chocolates to the young child, and I say, here's a box of chocolates. I'm giving this to you in the spirit of just decency. Yeah, that's right. Please don't take this in a creepy old man way of giving you chocolates. Yeah. And the kids just like take the chocolates, and the parents.
And then you have to get
the parents are kind of looking at me, wondering, creepy guy.
Creepy guy in a suit giving my kids chocolates. And now what we need to do is we need to get a lawyer to get a disclaimer. Absolutely. A chocolate disclaimer. Yeah. So when we at an auction, you can stop the auction. I'd like to give this lovely child, but first I have to get the parent to sign a disclaimer to say that it was given in this spirit and there was nothing creepy.
Yes.
And you can't be a nice person anymore, because everything you do, you see a girl and you say, you look lovely today. See you later. It's a lawsuit. That's it. You get slammed for that. You see a guy, you say, you look handsome today. See you later. That's objectifying.
I think that's still acceptable.
Is it right?
Yeah, when another man says to another man, hey, you look lovely, or gee, your grooming is nice, or your haircut's good. A man can say that to another man, but as soon as a man says it to a woman, or a woman says it to a man, but man to man, I think it's fine. And speaking of that, those eyebrows are just
There's a couple of little white ones there, isn't there, Phil? I have to do something about that. I think it adds.
I haven't had a crack at your eyebrows for a while, Gary, because I think you've been a little bit better groomed throughout the year. I tell you what's fascinating. Talking about men talking about other men. I tell you what, like one of the things that I do every night is I sit up and watch. So much sold this week, and you're babbling on with.
He's interrupting me again. I believe he can't help himself. Can you have a chat to him? I watch the American news every night, Philip, late, like 1, 2 o'clock.
Fox News, no doubt.
And I go CNN and Fox. I like to hear both of you. I like to go on Fox. They go, yeah, Trump, and then you go to CNN, and they go down Trump, and then you go back to Fox, yeah, Trump. But what was interesting is that they've now killed this guy, head of ISIS, as you know.
Yes.
And Donald Trump has come out and said that he wrote about Osama bin Laden when no one had heard of him.
Right.
He says no one ever heard of him. I wrote about him saying he's a problem and basically take him out. And if they had have taken, so I think he's saying that had they read his book, which I'm sure is selling a few more copies of now, that they would have got Osama bin Laden and 9/11 wouldn't have happened. But he said now that Osama bin Laden's son is a problem, and he's very handsome. He made that comment, which I thought was an interesting. He's handsome and charismatic like his father was, and I thought when you're talking about a terrorist, about someone who should take out, or is bad for mankind, do you describe them as being handsome and charismatic?
It's going to be really interesting.
Story,
it's going to be fascinating in 20 years' time, because you know how you look back in history, and that's when you work
Reagan
out how the politics of that time was judged. So, for example, there is a lot of people from the left side of politics in Australia that now look back and go, you know what, John Howard was a good leader at the time.
Right?
Yet at the time they were, just couldn't wait to rip him apart. But it'll be interesting to see what how history judges.
And likewise,
those
on the right look back to Bob Hawke with the same sense of admiration and respect.
100%.
But anyway, I thought it was funny that he would make a point of saying, Osama bin Laden's son, he's a very handsome man, which I don't know what the benefit or point of that is. And some of the things he says are, of course, interesting and incredible. That's right up there. Phil, let's just talk about the weekend that we had. We've got no auctions to review, so we can babble a bit more.
That
gives us some babble
time.
Yeah, that gives us some babble time. And we had to get out the story about the dog, because that's extraordinary, Phil. But how about our auctions on the weekend?
Speaking of our auctions on the weekend, Gary, we had a very interesting auction at Palm Avenue, and Palm Avenue was a great result. Having said that, it sold for a few $100,000 over the reserve, as it should, but it was one of my favourite all-time houses. I love that house.
Good
shout out to the owners.
And the vendors.
One of the men that was bidding on that house,
I think he's a bit of a sneaky watcher of the show.
In my banter with him, he tells us that I said, "What line of business are you in?"
No, hang on. I want to
correct me.
We'll
cut across me, see, Dales?
I can do it too. See, now what happened was you started to talk about tunnels, and you talked about something about a tunnel.
Infrastructure in
Victoria, and Dan Andrews, and I don't know. You'd gone on some rant completely off the topic, and no one knew what we were talking about, and was wondering what you were on. But we're talking about it, and all of a sudden you talked about a tunnel.
Yes.
You said, how you can make a tunnel, and you turn to this fellow and go, "You can make a tunnel," and he goes, "Well, I do that. That's my living. I make tunnels." And it was absolutely. And you were like, "No, you don't really, do you?" You thought he was taking the mickey. And he's like, "No, I do." So this guy actually makes and contracts out the big tunnels. And then you started getting more excited. You go, "Is it little tunnels? How big are they? Are they big tunnels?" And then you realise it was a big tunnel. And he said, "Yes, the machines of those tunnels, Phil." And now you can take it over because you'll be more eloquent in this part.
This man makes the tunnels for infrastructure, Victoria. So we're talking about the tunnels that we all drive in, where there's like cars either side of us. So we're talking about big tunnels. And he says these tunnels are massive, they're hugely expensive, but they get to the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, with the machine.
Right, with the machine. And once the tunnel's finished, they bore down with the tunnel maker, and then they just leave the machine. They bury the machine at the bottom of the tunnel. It's like, there's been a lot of talk about what they do to racehorses at the end of their life.
Just leave it on the track.
Where is the community disgust for leaving a tunnel machine buried in the tunnel?
I think with this age of political correctness, we should actually have some sort of a movement, a tunnel machine protection movement.
We're going to get T-shirts made. Save the tunnel
machine.
borer.
Save the tunnel borer. I think we should. Anyway, it was fascinating, Phil. In the middle of the auction, you just started getting this. And of course, actually most people just left and all the bidders were gone. You're just you and this guy talking about tunnel.
There is a clear strategy behind what I do, viewers. And if you're watching this part of the show now and you work out what my conversational strategy is,
still watching.
I'm going to link this into the Japanese horses. I've got a lovely bottle of Nikka whiskey for the viewer that can send me an email best describing why I have these detailed conversations with people in the middle of the auction, because there is a strategy.
There is strategy. Yeah, well, there's put up the email address there, Phil. There's ideas.
Bottle of Nikka, which I'm currently drinking at the moment, and loving it.
Is it under there?
I'm loving that Japanese.
I thought you had something on your breath today. You're actually drinking it right now. Phil, we've moved on from dogs and horses and tunnels to some of the auctions that we had. Bamborough Road, that was an unbelievable auction that Leor Samuel had. 6 to 660 was the range. Phil, the reserve was in there. Sold for $810,000 with some 8 bidders or something.
We had another good result in Bamborough Road for Joel Sir.
We did. I also like the 7349 Orong Road. It's a one-bedroom apartment, Philip, expected to get somewhere in the mid to high threes. $440.
Wow.
And 5 bidders for a one-bedroom apartment. So the market's strong. Philip, Blanche Street, one of your auctions. Do you want to tell us about that?
That was a lovely auction. Because
what were you handing out? I think there's some footage of this. Put it up.
It backed onto the Wood Frog Bakery.
Yep.
And the people that owned this house, their mother is Stephanie Alexander of Stephanie Alexander Cooking fame, and the best book on cooking in Australia is Stephanie Alexander, the chef's companion.
Do you ever cook?
I do.
Yeah, I cook an egg and toast.
No, I like to cook. We had 20 people for dinner on Friday night, and there's a ritual because your wife will know this because on Fridays I go to Toscano's to do the shopping, and your wife is also at Toscano's on a Friday.
Your domestic skills and nous and efforts and energies have got me in trouble a lot of times. You know, because I've come to your place and then there you are washing and wiping dishes, and I just get the death stare, and I get home and I just copper serve. So I've had this really nice dinner with some beautiful wine and lovely company, and before you know it, I'm in so much trouble. It's like, I just want you to sit down next time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, you know what? I'm a great believer in domestic chores should be split 50-50 between partners, whether it be two women that are living together, two men are living together, a man and a woman, or two theys living together. I think the bottom line is that everybody should share.
I say that in the house too. It should be 50-50. It should be Hannah 50-50 and the kids 50-50, and I think that's a very fair outcome.
You are a very old-fashioned Austrian man, Gary.
40304. Well, we can move on.
I want to talk about I want to talk about this. Let's just drill a little bit deeper because we can go through these properties one by one.
Drives me mad.
But ultimately, viewers, the thing that you need to know about this market, because we sold 23 out of 26, is that the number of bidders per property is what shows real depth in the market.
There were many properties with many bidders, Phil.
So Palm Avenue, for example, a home that sold between $3 and $4 million, four people bidding on that. I did an auction in Bamber Road, 6 people bidding on that. So right across the weekend, when I look at all of the auctions I've done, let alone you, Jeremy, and the rest of the auctioneers, multiple bidders, and what's becoming very common is somewhere between 4 and 6 bidders.
Yeah, it's out there in the papers too. You know, people are starting to understand what's going on. We're talking about it. Now, Josh Frydenberg's come out, of course, and said you've got 5% deposit, you're in, you can buy a property. So I wonder what that's going to do to prices. Certainly stimulate things. I think it gives people a chance to get in.
And Josh, given the fact that we know you watch the show, because ultimately you need to get your information from somewhere.
Of course you do.
Josh, we do look forward to having you on this show sooner or later. We might have to come up to Canberra. Actually, let's take the show to Canberra, Gary, and let's do this from Parliament House. Josh, if you could just organise that for you. Get your people to talk to our people.
Good casino in Canberra, by the way, Phil. Canberra Casino. Can't get a drink, and there's no air conditioning in there. But other than that, it's great fun. 6 Blanche Street, Phillip, sold for $1,275,000, so well done with that.
To Blanche Street, what was I handing out? I was handing out croissants from the Woodfrog Bakery. Shout out to viewers. Woodfrog Bakery is fabulous.
Is it croissants or croissants?
It's croissant.
Is croissant with a it's like CW?
It's spelled CR, but it's pronounced croix.
Okay, it's pronounced croix by you.
No, most French people that I've spoken to recently.
About croissants, okay. I'll say croissants. And you can say croissants. Philip, Dandenong Road, 304 Dandenong Road, sold for $770,000. Jeremy Rosen was on fire there. Wasn't expected to get that price. Went right through the roof, Phil. That was surprising. Fulton Street. Now, how about this? I love this sort of real estate, Phil, because I did the auction in Fulton Street. I think we had 4 bidders there. The vendor was from Wagga, from your old area.
Yep. Wagga.
I said to him, well, if you're cool, it's just Wagga, but Wagga, I suppose. And I told him that you were from Coot. Coot, no worry, like round the corner. It's like Caulfield and St Kilda.
Cootamundra was an hour's drive from Wagga, but you had to go through Junee.
Junee. And what about, there was another town somewhere around there?
Wagga, Junee. Cootamundra, Junee, Wagga.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's harness racing tracks.
Do you know what? When I used to drive from Cootamundra to Melbourne, this is political correctness at its. I know. Well, this is why we need political correctness in every way.
You can talk about your responsible father.
So we used to drive from Cootamundra to Melbourne, and back.
How many k's is it? 550.
It's about 550 kilometres. And the challenge back then was to drive as quickly as you could
and not get caught,
whilst looking in the rear vision mirror, because in those days the police had to tail you for a distance to measure whether you were speeding or not. And those were the days where I was taught, I kid you not, by my father on my L plates to drive at 160 to 180 kilometres an hour.
Responsible parenting.
And I would have done that journey maybe 100 times. We never got booked once.
Exactly right.
Mainly because the police couldn't catch us.
That's a shocking story. That is the height of
we did that. That was like completely normal.
I know, those days. And I reckon there was less accidents those days too, because I think people were, they were sort of more carefully in a crazy way.
We used to come down the highway, and I remember we had a Toyota Celica, right? And we were driving that fast, and it was a newish car, but you know, keep in mind that's like 30 years ago. This Toyota Celica, about 180, 190 kilometres an hour,
shaking?
would start to shake.
I think I was in it.
And we wouldn't even think
I think I was there. I think I was there one time, yeah. I think your father asked me to hold the wheel at some stage when it was...
well, he was eating his lunch.
His sandwich or something, yeah. And he was a responsible parent, exactly.
One last story on that. We're driving down the Hume Highway as a family, and probably, you know, as a family, and I think we had a station wagon at the time. And keep in mind, you know, we're living on a farm. There's a mouse plague. This is a true story. The mouse plagues, and the mice would get into everything. You could not. There was nothing a mouse couldn't get into. So we're driving down. Dad's driving. The kids are in the back, and all of a sudden we hear Dad shouting, and the car's like swerving. Right, he's got his left hand on the car's swerving down the highway. Dad is shouting. So a mouse has got into the car and run up his.
That's terrible. That's a shocking story. That would be everyone's worst nightmare.
True story.
Oh, God. Oh, what an upbringing, eh?
Okay, sorry, viewers.
Not a lot of people would have experienced that, Phil, so there you go. It's a sensation.
Okay, I think we need to wrap up the show. Yeah, it's gone on too long.
So Fulton Street, Philip, the vendor is from Wagga,
and
we sell it to the buyer from Hobart. It's like they met in the middle so beautifully. Isn't that a wonderful story?
A very long way of getting to that end
you
of
made
that
it
conclusion.
Long. 282 Bamber Road, Philip, expected to get in the very low ones, like 1 to 150 or 1 million. So for 1392, Philip.
And then we had 6 bidders on that, Gary. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Lovely house. Shout out to the people that bought it and to the owner that sold it.
450 Balaclava Road, Phil. Now, that was another very competitive auction, sold well in advance of what it was expected to get.
It did.
We talked about 1112 as its range. A reserve was positioned there. 1420, Phil.
Big result, Gary. Big result. We actually had an interesting situation there because we had an offer, I think, 24 hours, 48 hours before the auction of 1,265,000, which was over the top of our range. And the vendors ummed and ahed because it was a good offer, and then they decided, no, we're going to auction.
And they even had a lower reserve.
We'll take the risk.
And on the day had a lower reserve.
Wow, what a result.
Well done to them. 186A Marriott Street, Philip, in Caulfield. Again, another popular property sold for $916,000, well over its reserve there, which was in the range. 780 to 850 was the range there, Phil. Stone Street, we've talked about the dog house. It'll always be famous, but $2,140,000 it sold for, well above expectation there as well. And we'll wrap up with, well, Palm Street was amazing, but Glenira Road.
Yes, last auction for the day. What a result. Congratulations to the vendors.
Expected to sell somewhere in the high ones or over the reserve price in its range, which was in the high ones.
So 2 would have been a reasonable result for that, wouldn't it?
I believe so, but it was unique, and you know, you did a beautiful job of the video there. If someone wants to go and see that online, I must say you did an awesome job. It was a very different and unique proposition, and sold for $2,310,000. Thumping result.
Speaking of video, viewers, we've just changed the nature sometimes of the way we do videos, where we have a vendor that's happy to be on video. Viewers, have a look at number 15 Palm Avenue, Caulfield North, or number 4 Charles Street in Elstonwick, where we've changed the nature, and I must say we're getting really good uptake and a lot of positive feedback about those videos.
We are indeed, Phil, and there's a good one for Bud's Lane as well. That's an interesting one. The vendor's not in there. I'd love to have the vendor in it because that vendor is part of the Captain Matchbox whoopee band that sang Wangaratta Wahine.
My Wahine and Wang.
Well, Wangaratta Wahine was the name, but that was the...
My Wahine and Wang, Wangaratta.
What a great song that was. Love it. Our kids grew up on that song, Phil. Isn't that sad and tragic? A bit of Australian trivia there, but that was a...
Yes, My Wahine and Wang did not go international. It was not an international hit.
It should have. It was a great hit. Anyway, Phil, that's another interesting property that's up there and being marketed as a House of Rock, Phil. House of Rock. So that's a big finish. Although I just want to talk again about our recruitment evening, Phil. For those people watching, don't forget it's in November. The date and details are up there now. If you're wanting to be part of it, we'd love to have you work for us.
If it's not you, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle,
mother,
your children,
parent, grandparent.
Kid, we're not ageist.
No, we don't care. We've got a big spread of age here, actually, haven't we, Phil? We've got grandmothers and grandfathers, and we've got kids, young. We like to exploit everybody, don't we? So it's a wonderful opportunity to be part of it.
Should you wish to have your loved one exploited by us,
look no further.
Couldn't be exploited by nicer people.
We'd be delighted to do so. We've gone on and on. We've got this week the Derby. Cheer on order of command, Philip, because it's running in the Salinger. It's due to run the Salinger. Damien Oliver, let's please, Damien, bring it home for us on Saturday. It'll be very exciting. Order of command. That's a big, I think it's a good each way bet, Phil, but that's a big wrap on this GPTV October edition. We're in spring. We've gone on for too long.
The longest
so
close.
good is letting me talk. Thanks, Irene, for that. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Philip Kingston. Have a fantastic week.